Finn and Roman, they got the game. Customer success is their claim to fame. On the podcast, they light the spark, elevating your skills, creating a mark. Let's dive deeper into the playbook, the secrets they share. No need to look from onboarding to retention. They've got it all, success is the goal, gonna stay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Customer Success Playbook Podcast, where we bring you the latest insights and expertise from top leaders in the field of customer success. I'm Roman Trebon, and with me always is my co-host, Kevin Metzger. Kev, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm excited about our guest tonight.
Yeah, we got an exciting episode lined up. We're diving into a solution, Kev, that you've been talking about that lets you add personalized metrics, text, tables, and charts into presentations and one-pagers, which for me, I spent most of my day doing today, and I know it takes up so much time. So I'm excited to learn more about this solution. So why don't you tell our audience who we have on and what solution we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, so we've got Nik Mijic, who's the founder of Matik, and Nik's gonna talk about his company and tell us a little bit more about what Matik does. So Nik, can you kind of give us just some background on what Matik is and kind of your background on founding it?
Totally. Well, first of all, thank you both for having me on the podcast. A little bit about the founding story and the problem that we're trying to solve for. Prior to starting Matik, I was at LinkedIn where I had supported customers. I worked on a team called Insights that built out internal tools and narratives using our data that supported customer success and sales. And prior to that, worked at a few startups, one that was a customer success software startup that is no longer around. But basically, when I was at LinkedIn, even prior to LinkedIn, the customer success software startup that I worked at, a lot of our customers were saying, hey, we put together a lot of decks and presentations that contain a lot of data. So things like a business review, a renewal deck, an ROI deck. And we have templates in place, and our reps will go to that template, they'll make a copy, and there'll be instructions to say, Kevin, go to Tableau, take a screenshot, go to Nik is an analyst, he'll pull this data for you. And then you go to an ROI calculator and you put something together, and then you're putting together that presentation. So when I was at LinkedIn, there was a tool that had already existed that somewhat automated that process. I had the chance to rebuild it, and it was really successful. And it kind of got me thinking, hey, I think there's other companies out there that have a very similar problem where they are trying to leverage data and insights in a scaled way for their sales and customer success teams, but they don't have a tool that allows them to go and do that. And so Matik came to be. We started the company actually in early 2019 with my co-founder, Zach, who was an early engineer at Box. And really, if kind of summarizing at a high level, we automate the generation of data-driven content within PowerPoint, Google Slides, Docs, or even email, right? And we work with customer success teams. Some of our customers like Asana, Okta, Store, we really work with them to really automate things like business reviews, ROI one-pagers, benchmarking reports, anything where you're aggregating data, putting into some sort of a story or narrative that you're presenting in front of your customers. We want to help you automate that process. And at the end of the day, data is the new currency, right? And so especially in today's macroeconomic environment, you need to be able to show your customers value and ROI, and you do that through data. So that's kind of one of the big selling points for our product is really helping scale that content that you share with your customers.
Nick, you must, when this solution goes in, people must come to you and say, oh my goodness, thank you so much. This is all this low value work and, low value in terms of just how long it takes to gather this. Like you said, working with all these different teams, trying to pull this all together. And it sounds like Matik is a solution that can kind of integrate with, I guess, a plethora of kind of data sources, solutions to do this. For a company that's bringing this on, Nik, like what's sort of the ramp up and onboarding time look like? How long does it sort of take to get from, purchase to get this thing to work and starting to see some of the value?
Totally. So taking a step back, we have two sides of our product. We have the end user side, which is basically really straightforward. It is what a customer success manager, account executive would log into Matik. They would see all of the templates that their admin has onboarded to Matik, select a template, and then from there, provide us some inputs. And we use those inputs to then pull all the data and spit out a totally native piece of collateral that they can share with their customer. The admin side is usually folks like CS Ops, data analytics. They're the ones that are connecting to the data sources and creating what we call dynamic content to templatize or add the tokens to tags to the template. So typically what we do is, most of our customers have templates already. And if you don't, we have out of the box templates that we can share with you as an inspiration. But usually you'll have a template. We usually budget anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to onboard that first template, depending on how big that template is and what the data sources are. You can move a lot quicker, right? So you have the ability to onboard something. We've built a UI that allows you to easily connect to these data sources and create the dynamic content. You can onboard something within a week, even a day. It really kind of depends on your readiness from a data standpoint, whether or not you can achieve that.
So
That's awesome.
I guess question about connectors. Or do you connect into Salesforce? You connect into ServiceNow? All those tools.
We have the connectors that we have built within our admin side. I would say are 3 buckets. We've got CRMs, so things like HubSpot, Salesforce, Gainsight, right? Like a CSP that's sometimes considered a CRM, right?
Yeah.
Then we've got the databases and data warehouses, which are usually the most common that people want to connect to. So things like Databricks, Snowflake, Redshift, BigQuery, as well as I would then say like BI tools. So we connect with Looker, Tableau are most common. And then last but not least, we can even connect to like a Google Sheet or an Excel file, right? So the beauty of Matik is that when you onboard a template, you don't have to have all of your data in one place, meaning all of your data doesn't have to live in a data warehouse or doesn't all need to live in Salesforce. We can have, 3 data sources tied to a template. So, account level data is coming from Salesforce, usage data is coming from Snowflake, right? And then maybe ROI is coming from an ROI calculator that ties to the usage data. And there's some sort of mathematical equation that spits out ROI, and we insert that into the presentation. So that's one of the things that admins really like about us is it doesn't have to all live in one place.
Cool.
Nik, in terms of an organization that's bringing Matik in, obviously I know most customer success teams now are asking to do more with less, right? And so obviously that's a great ROI right there. How else does Matik, when companies, where else do companies see the ROI when they bring in Matik to really help their organization?
So I think there's really a few buckets that we talk about with our customers. I think the first one, to your point, is like productivity, time savings. It's very easy to quantify. Typically when people raise their hands and they request a demo, or they come to us like, hey, our team is spending roughly 6-7 hours a week putting together this content, whether again, it's a business review or renewal deck. And if you quantify that over a team, it's really easy to show, hey, this is how much time you all spend every single year. And based on the salaries, here is the ROI that you'd be getting, right? Productivity is like one bucket of ROI. I think the second, and this is something that we saw at LinkedIn and we see with a lot of our customers, is the impact. You're not just doing a renewal deck or an ROI deck just for the sake of presenting to a customer. It should lead to better business outcomes, being, okay, well, if I'm showing this data across the customer journey, right? So maybe I have an onboarding deck, maybe I send out monthly adoption reviews, maybe there's a benchmarking report, then QBR, then renewal. Ideally, by sharing those insights, that leads to better adoption, that leads to better renewals and better upsells and expansion. So I would say that's kind of that second bucket of ROI, is that closed loop tying to business outcomes. And then the third that we most commonly see is going back to your do more with less. Typically what we hear is that people are not doing this with all of their accounts, right? Like, hey, because it takes so much time to put together this content, if I'm a CSM and I'm managing 50 accounts, 60 accounts, I'm only able to do this with picking and choosing maybe 30 to 50% every single quarter, right? Well, if we've automated that process, ideally you should be able to go to 100% account coverage, or even better yet, accounts that don't have a CSM, what are they getting, right? And then the last bucket that I will say is more for the admins, right? Like this was me at LinkedIn where, Kevin, you would come to me and you'd be like, hey, look, I've got this massive renewal with Cisco next week. Can you help me put together some really cool data? I would pull data. You would go and present. You would crush it. You get the glory. You get the commission. And then I would get 10 Slacks on Monday. Hey, what you did for Kevin, could you do that for me too, right?
Yeah.
And how do you scale as an admin or person that supports customer success? How do you scale some of this ad hoc analysis that you put together for maybe your strategic accounts? How do you scale that across your entire book of business? Because if it's working for them, most likely it'll work for everybody else.
Yeah. And how easy is it for once you get set up and or an admin. So let's say you're going to come up now somebody's going to come and start asking for those new reports, right? How easy is it to add the new ones in once you start creating transfer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the beauty of Matic is that dynamic content is basically us populating a text box, which could be a metric, us populating a chart, us populating a table, us populating an image. Once you start creating that library of dynamic content, you can reuse it from template to template. So let's say you start with a business review template, which is really common. And then you're like, hey, Nik, I would love to do like a one pager or like a QBR light that I can maybe send out via email. You're most likely reusing that dynamic content. So the level of effort to onboard that new template will go down drastically, right? And so the other part is like we've built a UI on the admin side that hopefully is not cumbersome for you to go and make those changes, add new templates, iterate on it. So we've invested a lot of engineering resources on that side of the equation.
That's cool. So in the UI, do I see all of the types of data I've created that I can
go see all the dynamic content, and then you can click on a template. You'll see all the dynamic content that's tied to that template. You can see what data sources that's connected to. You can see, hey, dynamic content A, which is, let's say, I don't know, weekly active users, it's a metric. That is tied to 8 templates, FYI. And by the way, these 8 templates, here's how often they're used by your team. Make a change to it, and it's gonna impact these 8 templates that are very heavily used. So, make sure that you update the correct definitions. And that's also the benefit for the admin is now I have a source of truth for all customer-facing collateral, including data, not just content. Or let's say the definition changes. Well, now I don't have to email everybody, hey team, now when you go to Tableau and you download the data, make sure that you put it into this tab in Excel and that you take this, you do this formula. I abstract all of that away from my end users. I'm managing it. I can ensure that they're using the right data at the right time.
Yeah, that's huge. When you see who's using the data, are you able to actually see who's using it? So if I have a strategic change that's coming down to get is it easier for me to go say, hey, I got these people who I know I need to go get buy-in from because we're going to make this data change or this change in how we calculate information or an SLA update or something like that. Those can be critical across the business, and you really do need to make sure you got all the right people bought in.
So there's not as an admin, like I said, you have the ability to make that change directly with Matic, and it'll cascade. There's no communication that you need to do. So for example, if I make a change to the business review template within Matic, and let's say I add a chart or I update the methodology on how we calculate a certain metric, you don't even have to know about it, right? I will go and make that change. And next time you go into Matic as an end user, you select the template, you generate the deck, it'll spit out, and there's nothing that you need to do on your end. That's, again, the beauty of it. You as an admin, obviously, have roles and permissioning. So you've got multiple admins in there. You can make sure that you can't edit my dynamic content. Only I have edit privileges to make changes to ensure that something is done properly.
But as far as usage data goes, usage is kind of anomalized, I guess, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we obviously have usage of our products. So we can tell you, we'll say, hey, this piece of dynamic content is tied to this template. This template has been generated 100 times in the past 30 days, just FYI, right?
Which is great as an admin. If you're creating these templates, you know which ones the teams are using, right? So if you're, right, it's like, hey, I should spend time more on these because teams are using them, consuming them. There seems to be a lot of value. These other sort of templates, less value, so I'm not going to spend as much time on it. Nik, I have to imagine, this has to be such a sticky product. I can't imagine implementing this into an organization. It's like, hey, team, we've saved you so much time doing all of this, gathering all these insights, doing all this. Oh, by the way, we're going to rip it out. Like, I can't imagine that conversation happening. I mean, it must be amazing in terms of stickiness. It must be through the roof. I'm sure your customer feedback is in line with my train of thought here.
Yeah, and I think we've had some customers that have been with us for a really long time. I think it's a testament to the product that we have built and the value that we are driving with our customers. Usually when we do these enablement sessions, when the admins launch, I can't tell you how many screenshots I have when in the Zoom chat where the end users are like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, why haven't we done this before? Right. And it's a great feeling, and not just as a founder, but as a company as a whole, to see that, hey, what we have built is really resonating with our persona that we sell to, which is customer success, and that people are really finding value in the solution. It's great.
Yeah, that's great. So, Nik, I think you have a section where you're starting to use AI within the product, right? To help give insights and help people understand how to present some of the information that's coming in. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the way that we're leveraging AI is, let's say you have a slide that's in one of your templates, and let's say we're populating a chart, like a time series chart of something, right? Whatever it is, usage data over time. We can send that data not just to the chart, the native chart that's within Google Slides or PowerPoint, but we can send it to our AI, and the AI will analyze the data and will spit out like 3 bullet points with key takeaways from that data. Like, hey, here's the trend. And honestly, it's really good because it's very tailored, because we not only send the data, but we also send context around the data. Like, let's say, hey, this piece of dynamic content is active users over time, and this is how we calculate active users. And the AI will take all of that context and will spit out something that is usually really, really good. And it's always a starting point at the end of the day, because what we generate is totally native within PowerPoint or Google Slides or Docs. You still have the ability to make edits. But again, we want to get you as close to the 1 yard line as possible. And the AI really helps us with that.
So Nik, I'm going to pivot here a second away from the product. We talked about Matik on our show a couple of weeks ago because you guys were doing the Scale Plus CS Summit. And it was a who's who of guests lined up, and the agenda was amazing. How did that event come to be? How did you guys get into that, and where did it come from?
Yeah. So last year we did a summit, and that was the CS and AI Summit, where we wanted to showcase basically how customer success was leveraging AI, not just within our product, but what people were doing in the industry. I got to give a huge shout out to my head of marketing, Bex. She built a lot of these great relationships with these thought leaders within the space, as well as just people that were doing amazing things within customer success. And we thought, hey, let's do a summit. There's not really much out there that's tied to AI. And we did it, and it was amazing. Like like I said, it was a home run. And so we're like, hey, let's try to replicate that. And one of the things that we kept hearing, not just from our customers, but from the market, was, especially with the macroeconomic climate, scale was really top of mind for a lot of people, right? Because again, doing more with less, I don't have as many resources. I got to stretch my resources as much as possible. And so we thought, hey, instead of like what we did with AI last year, let's center the summit around scale. The reception was extremely positive. We got an amazing agenda of speakers, and the feedback that we got, again, was very similar to what we saw last year with the AI Summit.
I thought it was great. I got to attend a number of sessions, and really a lot of value coming out of it. So
we wanted to make it free. There's obviously a lot of great content out there, but we wanted to do something that was free of charge, that people can go ahead and learn from the experiences from some of the people that were speaking, right? Whether it was from LinkedIn, Asana, Box. We wanted to make sure that people had that content. And if you weren't able to attend, as long as you registered, we would be sending over the recordings for folks that couldn't make every single session.
So Nik, can we break some news here? Are we going to have a summit in 2025?
Yes, we probably will. Like I said, we'll probably do another summit next year. Not sure what the topic is going to be centered around, but definitely probably will be in the cards for us to do another summit.
Nik, we're going to hit you with some rapid fire questions. This has been great insight on the product. These are off the cuff here, so nothing to prep. All right. So early bird or night owl, Nik?
Ooh, I'm a night owl.
Place you'd want to travel that you have not already been?
Japan.
Are you a sports fan at all?
Yes.
What team are you following here?
Massive soccer fan. I'm originally from Bosnia, Croatia area. So Croatia's playing in the Euros this weekend. So I'm hoping that we can bring home a trophy. But at the club level, I'm a massive Arsenal fan in England. We haven't won the league in a long time. So hopefully next year we'll take home the trophy.
Trending in the right direction, though, I think, right?
We came up second, but what do they say? Second is just as good as last. So hopefully we can turn it around.
Do you have a book recommendation for our audience? So either a personal favorite or something in the CS space?
I would say my favorite book is kind of weird, probably not anything related to business. I love The Count of Monte Cristo. I reread that book probably every few years. I feel like there's a lot of good life lessons there on betrayal and revenge and all the above. So Count of Monte Cristo is a good one that I just recently read.
That's awesome. Well, Well, Nik, I think we are keeping you from dinner. So we thank you for joining the show. It's been a great conversation and really appreciate all the insight on Matik. And thanks again for doing the event last week. The summit was awesome. And hopefully our audience is able to attend.
Really, really enjoyed the conversation.
Yep. And so that's a wrap for this episode of the Customer Success Playbook. We hope you found our conversation with Nik insightful. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, comment, and share it with your friends and colleagues. You can find us on LinkedIn at Roman Trebon and at Kevin Metzger. We also have our Customer Success Playbook LinkedIn page, so check us out there. Connect and share your feedback on the show and give us suggestions on future topics and guests we should have on. As always, thanks for listening.
Keep on playing.